Hey everyone, welcome to Ratchet Goblin. In this video, I'll show you just how decent PVE Frost Mage has become after the new buff to Frostfire Bolt. I'm still missing tons of gear and some of my gear are really trash to be honest, and I had this luck with a random pug which was actually awful. There was no warlock in raid and I lost all my ward buffs before last two bosses. Otherwise, it could have easily been above 99 logs. I'm also planning my next video about creative builds and how much more powerful Frost Mage will become in the next phase. Probably the biggest improvement compared to Arcane or Fire. So don't forget to subscribe for more creative content. Let's dive into the build. The fun fact about Frost Mage is that it allows for tons of interesting builds. I'll be discussing this further in my next video, but for now, the best build for phase 2 is Deep Frost talent combined with Frostfire Bolt. Let me break it down so you understand why it's so overpowered. Frost has 3 significant talents that can greatly enhance DPS. Ice Shards is the biggest one, followed by Shatter, which is also substantial, and finally the Winter's Shield. These 3 talents picks are crucial for various scenarios. The most potent is Ice Shards, which increases critical damage bonus up to 100%. With the spell power rune, you can amplify it up to 150%. Adding to your critical damage output. This is why I'm hitting nearly 2k critical damage on bosses with just average gear, and we don't even have a warlock in raid for extra damage boost. The Shatter talent tree makes you incredibly powerful against mobs. You can actually skip it because it's useless with the runes I'm using for the bosses in this raid, but I pick it up so I can do decent damage to adds. Lastly, the Winter's Shield is a huge talent that adds 10% a chance to your critical damage. You can also take a look at runes I've been using in this raid and this video. I believe they are currently the best ones available for PVE Frost Mage in phase 2. Let's delve into the bosses and I'll outline the pros and cons of PVE Frost Mage. Starting with the pros, Frost Mage offers significant utility to any raid. With double Ice Plug, you can remove various debuffs and survive different scenarios. You can switch to Blizzard talent to control adds in any raid encounter, and opting for the shield, you can save yourself in wild damages in future raids. In terms of damage, as you can see in video, Frost performs admirably, though I've noticed the longer fight lasts, the more damage Frost can dish out. Regarding competition between Frost, Arcane and Fire, I believe that in phase 2, Frost can excel in damage and even surpass Fire and Arcane at certain points. In the next patch, there's a big chance Frost could outperform both, but I'll delve into the specific potential and build in the next video. Now, let's tackle the bosses. For the first boss, you'll notice that I'm opening the fight with Living Flame. Despite missing decent Warlock utility buff for either fire damage increment or demonic pack, the DPS in my opinion is quite good. I only use Living Bomb when I'm moving, otherwise Frostfire remains the primary damage dealer as demonstrated. I've also utilized a nature potion so I don't have to move at all, preserving significant DPS without interruptions. Moving on to the second boss, which was ninja put by totems, and I lost my precasting because of that. Precasting is crucial for Frost Mages, as unlike Fire, we don't do much DPS while moving. Losing a cast due to line of sight cost me dearly. I could have finished the adds much faster if I had chosen to do so. I'll definitely try that on my next raid. I made a mistake of using Living Bomb on both add and the boss when I wasn't moving, which was essentially worthless. I believe I could have performed much better if I had simply ignored that. Once I started spamming Frostfire, it had huge impact on my DPS as you can see. So in general, I believe my low DPS on this boss is entirely my fault, but I've learned my lesson and will improve significantly for the next attempt. Moving on to the third boss, positioning is crucial. If you stay in a clear area, there's a bigger chance you won't get targeted by shockwave, which significantly affects the caster's DPS. I believe using worthless living bomb and poor positioning had a big impact on my DPS, and I could have performed much better if I had simply focused on spamming Frostfire in peace. The good thing about Frost is that you can actually use Ice Plug here, either to negate the shockwave or if the boss is trying to charge at you. Moving on to the fourth boss, my sad pug vibe because off tank was sleeping and not getting dragon. Rip to all of my ward buffs affecting my further performance. For the next attempt without ward buffs, I was actually struggling how to DPS as Frost, to be honest. I knew that as fire I could simply apply living bomb to all of the bosses and ignite plus living flame would result in significant DPS. With the constant procs of hot strike I could do so much damage. However, as Frost in phase 2, I found it challenging to deal damage to multiple bosses. Another challenging aspect of this boss is that since the ship will go into reflection mode, I would lose all stacks of my winter shield, and in general, I had 10% lower critical chance on this fight. I wish we could switch talents in Classic, as I know some very decent Frost builds that work quite well here. But for now, I think it's best to act as Fire Mage on this boss and simply pick one target instead of ship to spam Frostfire so you don't lose your 10% crit chance. Despite all these challenges, as you can see in video, my DPS wasn't too bad, but honestly, this boss seems really challenging for Frost spec. Moving on to the last boss, I'm missing ward buffs and we have no warlock for either its utility or focusing on bombs to ease off the burden on other casters. I talked to the raid leader beforehand about wanting to skip clicking and bomb for the last boss since I really need to test my build. Anyways, in my messy pug, lead decided to give everyone free will, like anyone can click and everyone should kill the bombs. For this boss, I lost tons of DPS because the tank moved the boss to the very edge of platform. For anyone who doesn't know, there are much better tactics now and you definitely don't have to take the boss too far. As you can see in the video, I'm doing nearly 400 less damage on my criticals, which is a disaster compared to what I could do. Even though I wasn't trying to click so I could see how much I could do at my best, I still had to do some clicks which decreased my overall DPS. The good thing I noticed for the second phase is that since the boss seems to have a big frost resistance capability, it didn't affect my Frostfire Bolt, which shows that Frostfire Bolt can be counted as both fire and frost damage while still benefiting from both spells. So in general, if bosses have big fire or frost resistance, Frostfire won't be much affected. In the third phase, I seriously decided to click some and kill some bombs because I felt like with no assignments, it could actually end up wiping us. So my DPS started to decrease drastically from now. In the last phase, the healer priest died as you can see, and I just gave up on DPS to simply help raid from wiping again. With all these, to be honest, it shows that this build can do pretty good DPS even with all the mistakes and messy stuff that can happen in a raid. And it's definitely worth playing if you enjoy it as much as I do. As already mentioned, I have a decent video coming up next where I will discuss an even more powerful Frost Mage on the next phase. Thanks again for watching and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you liked the video.